Hey everybody, thanks for joining the cast today. I'm Brad from GenieCast, and I am glad to see that there's some videos unmuted. This is awesome. I'm going to cover some housekeeping stuff before I pass it over to Susan, just so you guys all know what's going on today. We'd love to hear your questions. Susan's going to make this really interactive. You all have control of your mic. I'll unmute those in a second, but if you have a question for Susan at any point in the cast, simply click that unmute my mic button on the bottom left, and you can ask your question live. Otherwise, if you don't want to be on video and don't want to ask it live, just type your question in the chat, and I'll read it to Susan out loud. Susan, I will let you get started.
Hey, thanks, Brad. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And thanks to everybody for being here. Gosh, I know you all have busy schedules, and it's so thanks to the sponsors, the SBE Council, Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council. If you're not familiar with them, you should be. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on in Washington, and we're not going to get political right now, but I can just tell you right now that the SBE Council is a great voice, a nonpartisan voice for those of us in Washington, those of us who are small business and business leaders. So check them out. It's sbecouncil.org. I'd also like to say thanks to the American Management Association and Amicom. Amicom is my publisher. My new book, The 1% Edge, Small Changes That Guarantee Relevancy and Sustain Success, will be coming out after the first of the year. And of course, that's what this webcast series is all about, really, sort of giving you an idea about what my book is about. So if you were so kind as to have joined me last month, I talked about why I wrote the book, The 1% Edge. And it's actually because I wanted to help businesses understand a process that could help them build innovation into their company's DNA. If you think about how many brands that we all know today that no longer exist, I mean, even just this week in the Wall Street Journal, there was a big article about Sears. What's happening to Sears? I mean, I could remember growing up with the Sears catalog and the wish book, looking for all the things that I wanted Santa to bring me. And, you know, it may be a thing of the past. We don't want that to happen to our companies. And so that's why it's very important to be creative, to be agile, to be constantly looking one step ahead of the competition. And the 1% Edge isn't about major changes. It's not about creating the next sexy, really cool thing. It's not really disruptive. It's about putting a process into place that is a continual enhancement of all your business operations, your product, your service, your people, your customer service, your marketing, your infrastructure, every single thing you do, constantly innovative. And people ask me all the time, like, why did you come up with the 1% Edge? Well, if you think about it, water is very hot at 211 degrees. It's very hot. At 212 degrees, it's boiling. That 1 degree makes all the difference in the world. And for those of us who are business owners and business leaders, it's just about having that noticeable difference, that 1% edge that keeps us relevant and keeps us on that straight path toward continual success so that we don't become a statistic like so many other brands. We know that these brands that have now become non-existent, it's not that their leaders were dumb or that they didn't have the skills to lead a great company or their product wasn't any good. It's because they weren't constantly focused on innovation, and the market, their opportunities, slipped away from them. So before I get in today about leading with the edge, because obviously if you're going to lead an organization that has that kind of innovation, that kind of creativity, that kind of agility, it starts with you, the business owner and the business leader. But I want to step back in case you weren't here with me, and I want to talk about the process that I created to help you build this into your business, into your business model and operations to transform the way you're currently doing business. So let's talk about it. It's a 6-step process. It starts, number one, with what I call mindful thinking. You have to be able to step away from your business and think about what's going on today. Are you giving the market a reason to change its buying habits? Are you using the right tools and resources? Do you have the right people? Are you looking beyond the current horizon at new opportunities? Do you see what competition is coming around the corner? Do you know what legislation or industry changes that could really impact your business and blindside you? Are you open to change? Or do you have your head buried in the sand? Are you rationalizing? Have you surrounded yourself with yes people who are telling you what you want to hear? That's what you need to do. Mindful thinking. You have to set aside time, either for yourself or for your leadership team, to walk away from the business and to think about these things. Ask those tough questions, the questions that you don't know the answers to, and the questions you may not know, you may not want to hear the answers to. Mindful thinking. That's step one. Step two is to prioritize. Once you've identified these things that are either risk or opportunities for your business, you want to prioritize them. In my own company, I used to do what I called above the line and below the line, because obviously you can't focus on all things all at the same time, right? It's impossible. So I would put the top things in a list. We would top easiest, most important, critical, all the way down, and we'd draw a line at the top 5. And those were the top 5 things that we would focus on. Now, those might rearrange themselves down the road, but you got to pick a lane and say, this is what we're going to focus on, so that that's where your resources, that's where your bandwidth, that's where you're spending your time, your money, and your energy. Then you have to be willing to look hard. Step number 3 is to look very hard and long. Where can you cut the dead weight? Every business has dead weight, believe me. Whether it's a product that isn't profitable anymore, whether it's the people, whether it's a process that you're using, there are ways to cut the dead weight so you can focus on those opportunities that will help you maintain your relevancy and sustain success. Step number 3. Step number 4 is to create your plan and execute. And we all know the old saying, right? Ideas without action, they're not worth anything. So you've got to execute. You got to move forward, and move forward with a bold and exciting energy that says, yes, this is the direction we're going. And as you move forward, step number 5 is to constantly review, to analyze what's going on. When you build your plan, you build in assumptions, you talk about what made you make those decisions, and you constantly review those. Is it working? If it is, great. If it isn't working quite like you thought, are there ways to tweak it? And the third thing is, if it's not working at all, dump it and move on in real time. This review and analysis has got to be done in real time on a regular basis. The old historical 2, 3, 5-year plans, those are dead. This is real time. That's how fast the market's changing. I mean, Sam Walton, who wasn't in our era, but built a hugely, wildly successful business, as we know. Do it, try it, fix it. That's what you've got to do. Do it, try it, fix it. And then the 6th step, repeat from the beginning. The 1% Edge process is not about a system that you're going to buy off the shelf and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this one time. It's a one-time exercise, and boom, we're done. The 1% Edge process is about a continuing transformation in the way you're doing business. So that's why this second webinar series, which I'm excited to bring you here today, is all about leadership. Because if you're going to transform the way you're doing business, it's got to start with you. Whether you're a business owner or whether you're a business leader managing a team, it's got to start with you. You have got to create a work environment where innovation, creativity, and agility reign supreme. And that's got to start with your commitment right from the top. If it doesn't have your commitment, this is an exercise in futility. Warren Bennis, who is actually, many say he was actually the pioneer of the contemporary field of leadership as we know it today, said, leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. And that's your job as a leader. As a leader with the edge, that is your job, to take that vision, to see what is out there, the opportunities to remain relevant and to sustain your success, and translate that into reality, to build that team, that structure, that product, that service, that marketing message that allows your brand and your company to remain relevant. So let's start off, and I'm going to give you some questions to think about, to ask yourself and or your team if you have a team. Are you actually a leader who is walking the walk? Or are you just a bunch of rhetoric, just talking the talk? Think about it. Do you talk about being innovative and creative, but yet you're stuck in a rut? You want to do business the old-fashioned way? You know, the status quo is never going to become the status quo. I'm going to repeat that. The status quo will never become the status quo. So are you just talking talk? Or are you actually walking the walk? Do you have the right tools that allows your organization to work smarter, not harder? Are you increasing productivity and delivering better customer service? Are you thinking about ways to enhance your customer experience? There's an old saying, and I'll talk about this again next month when we talk about customer experience, but it's called lagniappe. It's from New Orleans. And the merchants, the retailers in New Orleans always used to give lagniappe. That's something extra. What are you doing in your business? Are you looking beyond the horizon, the obvious, for those new opportunities? Are you still just stuck in your rut doing this business the same old way? Are you able to articulate a vision that's going to resonate with your employees and your customers that says, this is who we are and this is where we're going? Do your team leaders know how to empower your other team members? And most importantly, are you, the business leader, the business founder, the entrepreneur, are you open to change? Or is it my way or the highway? You know, I understand change is scary. None of us really likes change. I mean, it's the fear of the unknown, right? But as I said, the status quo is yesterday's news. And if you're embracing the status quo because, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Guess what? You might as well start going to the back of the room because you are on losing ground. You're falling behind. Now, as a business leader, I have been in the corporate world for many years. I've been an entrepreneur for many years, but I was in the corporate world for quite some time. And I used to write the CEO's speeches. And every year we would have what I called the pep rally, right? It would be, I could write this speech in my sleep. We're going to be second to none. We're going to be innovative. We're going to bring this. We're going to do this. Our employees are the best assets. We got the best team. And everything was rah, 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 rah. And 2 weeks later, where did it go? It was nothing. It meant nothing. Just a bunch of words that I wrote down on a piece of paper. What happens is we get caught up in the moment, but as business leaders, we've got to put some teeth into it. If we're going to really make change, if we're going to be innovative and creative, and we want to empower people to be agile and creative and innovative, we have to put teeth in it. We've got to mean what we say, and we've got to empower them to deliver. And that means we have to open our minds. I always say, change your attitude, change your results. Because it's your mental perception of what's going on in your business that is binding you and preventing you from achieving the success that you need to do. So the biggest thing as a leader with an edge is you've got to let your ego go. You don't know everything. I know it's hard to admit, isn't it? But you don't know everything. And in fact, in today's fast-paced world, my goodness, who could possibly stay on top of everything that's going on? So you don't want to surround yourself with yes people. You don't want people who are going to tell you what you want to hear. You know, if you look at what happened with Nokia, Nokia had a big lead in the cell phone business, but they started to fall behind. And according to everything that I have read, one of the things that happened was the management didn't want to hear or didn't want to face what was happening in the marketplace. So they kept trying to sell. They told the sales force, but we have better value. So go out and sell better value. Sell better value. So the sales force went out and tried to sell better value. And they tried to put a great rosy, sunglass look on the numbers, because that's what management wanted to hear. You don't need to hear what you want to hear. You need to hear what you need to hear. And you need to hear it with a sense of humility. And you need to welcome dissent. Now, I'm a baby boomer. I'm almost 60 years old. I admit it. I can't believe it, but almost 60 years old. And I'll have to tell you, I know, and I hear it all the time, that millennials get a bad rap. They get a bad rap in the marketplace. They don't want to work hard. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. Here's one thing that I'll tell you that millennials do very well. They're going to question you. When you say, this is the direction we're going to go, they are going to question you. They're going to say, why? What's the purpose? What are we doing? Those are the questions that you as a leader need to accept with an open mind, because those are the questions that are going to allow you to drill down into your decision making and where you're leading your company. Because if you don't have the right answers to those, or you don't have good answers to those, what's the purpose? Why are we doing this? Why do our customers really want this? Then you need to step back and listen without an ego and with humility. And words like, oh, that'll never work. You haven't been around long enough. Oh, it's not the way it works in this industry. No, are you kidding me? What a crazy idea. Those phrases should be something that you never hear in your organization. To have a creative, innovative organization, you want to be open to everything. Back in the day, I had a PR firm, and I used to say we'd send out press releases or whatever. And back then, gosh, it was a big thing if we could fax them, right? But I'd always say, hey, we send all this stuff out. It's like throwing spaghetti against the wall. We hope something sticks. You know what? Same kind of thing right here. Throw that spaghetti against the wall. See what works, what doesn't. You know what? If it falls, no big deal. And it's very important that you as a leader, talking about being open to dissension, is that you embrace diversity. We know what's going on in the news right now, a lot of hate and polarization. And what this country and every successful business needs is diversity. We need people that don't look like us, who don't think like us, who have different backgrounds, who have different experiences, who understand different things, because then we bring all kinds of perspectives to the party. And when you bring all of that in, that's where you get your creative ideas. Because I grew up in Southern Missouri. I'm not going to have the same perspective as somebody who grew up in the Northeast or in California. I'm not going to have the same perspective that someone who is African American who grew up in the South. I'm not going to have the same perspective as somebody who is a great linear thinker because I'm creative. There's so much diversity that we need to bring to the table in order to really be innovative, because that's where the big ideas come from. And by the way, speaking of big ideas, you as a leader, you need to be a constant learner. You need to be constantly learning, questioning everything, trying new things. I have a podcast. It's called the 1% Edge Podcast, right? I've been interviewing some just amazing, amazing business leaders and thought leaders. And many of them are real mavericks. They are adventurers. They love adventure. They're climbing mountains. They're traipsing through jungles. They're zip lining. They're jumping out of airplanes. And when I asked them about that, I said, why? And they're like, because it broadens my whole perspective. I'm going to be very honest with you right now. I'm not going to jump out of an airplane, but I will tell you this much. I do read. I read something new every single day. And it may not even be my area of interest, but I want to read it because you never know where those big ideas are going to come from. If you ever saw the movie Working Girl with Melanie Griffith, she actually, takes over, impersonates her boss, whatever, comes up with this great merger and acquisition idea, and then it turns out she's only a secretary. And at the very end of the movie, the owners of the businesses and everybody ask her boss, which is Sigourney Weaver, they said, so where did you come up with this idea? And she couldn't answer. So then they asked Melanie, and she said, well, I was reading the society page. I saw this, and then I saw this in another publication. And she said, after all, you never know where the big ideas are going to come from. You just never know. You have to expose yourself to so much in today's environment because there's so much change going on. So you have to be a constant learner. And another thing is, as a leader with the edge, you can't overthink things. I mentioned earlier about making decisions in real time. You don't have time to stand still. You don't have time to rethink and to be a perfectionist about what you're doing in your business. You need to make a bold statement, move forward, and tweak it as you go. You can't overthink it. The perfection paralysis is a no-winner. It's a non-starter for businesses today. I was just talking to someone about their business recently, and he said, well, we don't have this ready. We don't have that ready. We can't really launch with this. We can't really do because it's not right, blah, 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 blah. Excuses. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? If you don't move forward with this right now, somebody else is going to seize this window of opportunity, and you're going to be at the back of the line. Don't let someone seize your window of opportunity. You've got to make bold decisions as a leader in real time. And you have to be, as I said, committed to it from the top. You probably work with people, I know I have, that there's always the flavor of the month, right? Oh, we're going to do this. Oh, now we're going to do that. Oh, now we're going to go this way. Pick a lane and stay in it. I was also in a group not too long ago, and a lady was talking about, well, I'm really doing this, but then I really want to do that. And she had like two different kind of concepts going on. And she had a name for her Instagram account, which was total departure from what she'd been doing. And I said, you're confusing the market. You need to pick a lane and stay in it. You can't be the flavor of the month. You can't be this on one hand and that on the other, right? You can't be everything and all things to all people. Pick a lane and stay in it. And then as you build your team, as you build your organization, the biggest thing is to make a safe harbor. Your work culture needs to be a safe place for your team, your diverse team, to feel safe about sharing their ideas, about taking risk, about saying, hey, let's go this direction. And if it doesn't work out, hey, so what, right? If you're not failing once in a while, you're not doing anything. I've certainly worked in companies before where people have said to me, okay, this is what we're going to do. Came from the top down. Here we go. And I remember people looking at me like, why are we doing that? Makes no sense, but oh, well, whatever. We'll do it. One of the biggest problems in our workforce today is disengagement of employees. You want an engaged workforce, and that means you're going to need to give them the room, the flexibility to make mistakes. One of my bosses used to say to me, Susan, I'm giving you the opportunity to fail. And at the first glimpse of that, I thought, that seems really weird. Like, why would he want me to fail? But what he was really saying to me was, I'm giving you the opportunity to fail because I want you to take the initiative to run with the ball and to try things. And if it doesn't work out, it's okay. It's okay. And I even know companies who have like an award for the failure of the month. But you want your team to know, in order to build innovation, in order to remain relevant, to be agile and creative, hey, we're going to try some things and it may not work out, and that is just okay. And you also want a team where you as the leader, you have a strong basis of trust. You're authentic. You're not the Wizard of Oz. You're not the man behind the curtain. You're authentic and transparent. That you have a strong sense of integrity and that there is mutual respect up and down your organization. And you also need to be a great listener, an absolutely great listener. You know, sometimes we don't want to hear things that are being said to us. It's tough. Nobody wants to be criticized, right? But hey, if somebody takes the time to offer constructive criticism to me, I'm going to listen. I may not agree with it, but I'm going to listen. And it's a really tough thing to become a good listener, because we all get our own biases, our own heads into things. And we start thinking about the answer or the response or the defense before we actually hear what's being said. So you need to really work on becoming a great listener, and not just with your employees, but with your customers as well. Because to remain relevant today, it's important that you can listen to what your customers are saying. You know, Steve Jobs said sometimes, you know, you can't ask customers what they want because they don't know. And I'm paraphrasing that, and he did a much better job of it than I did. But you got to listen. What's happening in the marketplace? Where is that market void? And your employees sometimes are the best people at identifying those things. And the biggest thing too is you've got to take the emotion out of it. And that's particularly true for those of you who are leading smaller organizations. You know, they're our babies, right? We birth them. We watch them grow up. And it's hard when you have a team that you've worked closely with not to feel those emotional connections. But if you can subtract the emotions out of it and understand that, you know, business is business, friendship is friendship. And really, you as the business leader, you've got to put the business first. And you may not like what's being said or what you hear or how something's being interacted. You may not even really like that person. Maybe somebody you wouldn't want to go have a beer with. But that's an emotional situation. This is about business. You want the best team, the best people, the right people in the right seats. You want them empowered. You want them to feel strong enough to bring their ideas to the table so that you can build that innovation into your organization. And that's how you become a leader with the edge. And I think, Brad, we have some questions.
We do. Leslie raised her hand, so I was trying to walk her through to see if her audio is on. Leslie, can you hit the unmute mic button?
She sent me a message here.
Oh,
Leslie's question is, how can I set aside think time for myself when I'm running a business as a working mom and juggling a family? That is a fantastic question, actually, Leslie. Thank you for that. You know, I don't have children, but I do have elderly. My mother's passed away, but I have an elderly father. And I can tell you, you know, it's tough. You got a million pieces going on at all one time. I'm helping some family members in southern Missouri right now with some personal issues, and it is tough. I understand. My recommendation always is, much like I do with exercise or anything else, is I do really schedule it into my calendar just like I would anything else. So whether it's meditation or your exercise or a time to get together with your group. And it may not be necessarily every week, maybe it's every other week, but you just get away from it all, even if it's just for an hour. And you can sit back and say, okay, this is what I want to think about. These are the questions I want to review. These are the things I need to consider. But if you're not scheduling it, it's really tough because everything else takes priority. Believe me, I know. I know how that happens. And before you know it, a day's gone by, a week's gone by, a month's gone by. So that would be my best recommendation to you, is say, okay, I'm going to put this on my calendar because, with your kids and your business, you pretty well know what your schedule is going to be like. Put that little time on your calendar and make that just about you so you can think about where you want to go with your business. Oh, Mary Quigg says, hi, Mary. Mary says, I'm taking notes like crazy. How do we get a sneak preview of your book? Well, actually, Mary, if you go to susansolovic.com/new book, I will be sending out regular updates, sneak peeks here and there. So thanks. I appreciate your interest. And you can also pre-purchase the book on Amazon already. So I encourage everybody to go over.
Thank you. I'm loving this.
Thanks, Mary. Okay, so somebody wants to know, let's see. Oh, this is really sweet. Thank you. I don't know who sent this, but thank you very much, Susan. You're simply the best in what you do. My question is, though, how to be a good blogger, part of this wonderful book, 1% Edge. So I would just say, if you go onto my website, susansolovic.com, we have a lot of advice, a lot of columns I've written on how to develop blog content, how to get your blog out there, how to get noticed. But the biggest thing I will say to you, and I actually was in a mastermind group on Sunday. We spent the whole day together. And one of the things we talked about is so many people say to us who have written books, I want to write a book. Okay, great. But then nobody gets around to it. Well, here's the thing. Whether you want to write a book or you want to write a blog or whatever you want to do, you have to do it. You have to start. You have to do it. So, pick a time, just like I was saying to Leslie earlier about, setting aside time on your calendar just to sit back and think about your business. Pick a time of your day, which you're most creative, and say, okay, every day I'm going to write at this time. And I don't care if it's garbage and I throw it away later, but sit down and write. And if you do that every single day, guess what? Not only will you have great blog content, but before long, you're going to have a book too. There is a wonderful book that I read before I wrote my first book. It's called Bird by Bird, like flying bird, bird by bird. It's a very small book. It's a fast read, beautifully written, but it's about writing fiction, but it basically, in a nutshell, just gave you the advice that I did. But if you're interested in blogging, as I said, check out my website. We've got lots of ideas where to get content ideas, how to get your blog out there, how to get noticed. But more importantly, the Bird by Bird book will get you started if you want to write a book and get you focused on how to do that. Are there other questions, Brad?
I don't see any live questions. Let's see. So I did get one chat a little bit earlier.
All right.
So the chat was, let's see here. How to manage a team successfully with a lack of capital in the company.
Oh, well, okay. So first of all, most businesses that are starting and getting off the ground and growing have a lack of capital. So I can totally appreciate that. Managing the team, though, really doesn't have anything to do with the lack of capital. It has everything to do with you as a leader. So it is about getting people involved, getting them invested, giving them the opportunity, as I said earlier, they feel empowered. They feel like they can contribute, that they have a vested interest in where the business is going, that they understand your vision and believe in the vision, and that they are excited and energized about that vision. And even more importantly, that they share your values. So as you're growing your organization, whether you are a leader in a department or an organization, a big company, or if you are building your own business, it's very important to establish your values. Values are critical to any organization. I always say skills can be taught, but you can never, ever change someone's values. So you want to make sure those values are copacetic. If you look at Zappos, the CEO of Zappos has said, you know what? I don't care how great an employee is. If they are not living by our values, they're gone. They will not be an employee of Zappos anymore. That's how critical values are to an organization. So those are just a few things. Vision, values, the right people with energy, who are excited, who are empowered, and who bring a lot of to the party. You know, as a leader, you've got to look at your own strengths and weaknesses. And I said earlier about diversity. You don't want to hire somebody who looks exactly like you in the mirror. You want to bring people in who bring other expertise, who have skills and intellect that you don't have, that have experiences and backgrounds that you don't have, because that's how collectively you begin to collaborate and begin to bring this genius of creativity into your organization.
Okay, so we had 2 questions. One was chatted to me privately, so I'll read that one first. The other one's a little bit longer, so that one's in the chat box. Right. So Leslie said the first one. She said, "How can I cut the dead weight from my business?"
So that goes all across the board. So the dead weight can be your people, it could be processes you're using, technology, it could be a product or service that's no longer profitable. So what you need to do is sit down and look at each thing, each category, and I go through this in my book. But you look at, number one, let's talk about product or service. Technology changes the delivery of product and services. And it may be that a product that was once highly profitable for your company, now its profit margin has slipped to nothing. So you need to do what I call a profit wheel, and we'll talk more about that when we get to that webinar later on in this year. But you want to do a profit wheel, and you want to look at the percentage of each product and service that you're delivering and what their profitability is. So if you've got a product that is the majority of your business and its profitability is shrinking, number one, you have to decide, is there a way that I can deliver this more profitably? Or number two, should I be focusing on this other product that is bringing a higher profitability and put more resources there and scale back on the other one? So that's kind of the analysis you need to do. The same with your employees. Do you have people who are just showing up? I talked about disengagement of employees. I think that, we have a crisis of disengagement in this country. In fact, my friend Andrew Sherman wrote a book called The Crisis of Disengagement. Do you have people who are showing up and just putting in their time and have no energy or enthusiasm or desire to really contribute to your business? Those are the people you need to get rid of. And as I said earlier, as we build our organizations, we bring people in, they become part of our family. But yet, if they're not contributing, they are pulling your entire organization down. So my advice has always been hire slowly, hire smart, fire fast. You got to cut the dead weight.
Awesome. So another one was kind of more of a general comment that ties in, but this is from Sylvia. Sylvia says, "Hi, Susan. Thanks for all of this. I attend a writers meetup once a month. Yesterday, they critiqued my introduction. Boy, did I have to let go of ego. So many changes and deletions. However, they were so right. My assistant agreed totally on the title change. So I'm excited about the changes now and the critique team comments.
You know, Sylvia, I am so proud of you that you have took it in the right manner and that you listened and you learned from it. It's so easy, especially when it comes to writing, because writing is so personal that we feel like, oh my gosh, you know, how could you say this? You know, this is my creation. But sometimes people looking from the outside in can see things that we don't see because we're so close to it. And having written a number of books, I can tell you, I've gone through a lot of editors' comments, and I learned to get a really thick skin. And having gone through the whole venture capital process, believe me, I have been attacked in so, I don't mean that in a negative way, but attacked in so many ways. But it's those kind of questions, it's that kind of feedback, that's kind of input that allows us to improve, to enhance, to get better. And congratulations to you that you were open enough to accept that and to learn from that process. So I just can't wait I hope you'll send me a copy of your book when it's ready.
Okay. She says, I will.
Great. Thank you, Sylvia.
Another question I got from Matthew. It says, how to attract new talent when you are a small firm of 3?
It's always difficult to compete for great talent when you're a small firm, but there are some ways. I mean, look at companies that have brought in amazing people and turned them into millionaires when they started in a shoebox, right? So I think the big thing is that you can really explain your vision, explain the purpose. What is the purpose of this business and what is it going to bring to the market, and let people buy into the heart and soul of your company and give them incentive, not up front. You're not going to pay them 6 figures right off the bat, right? You can't afford to do that. But if they are willing to invest their sweat equity and their talent and their intellect, then let them share in the reward of the success. And that's how you attract people to a smaller organization.
Okay. I have another chat that came in to me. Before I do, I just want to remind everybody, if you want to ask your question live, just simply click that unmute button on the bottom left. I see that pretty much everyone's audio is connected. So if you want to do that, feel free to unmute and ask your question. So the other question I received from Reese was how to speak for organizations and associations that haven't heard about you.
Oh, okay. Well, if they haven't heard about you, shame on you. I kind of say that with a joke, but let me explain this. I think that in today's era, where we all have the capability online to become our own publishing companies, so to speak, with social media, with connections, with newsletter, building databases, building your platform. So shame on you. But that also being said, you can reach out to them and, send them information, find out who their decision makers are, get connected, use your network. I'll tell you this much. I have a granddaughter who is an amazing, amazing young golfer. And I wanted to get her in with the LPGA. Well, I have no sports ability whatsoever, none. So what did I do? I started reaching out to my network on LinkedIn and everywhere, and eventually found my way into the LPGA, got her a scholarship to a leadership program. So use your network. That's what it's about. And I will also say though, as you build your network, and if you haven't read Bob Burg's book, The Go-Giver, you should read it because it's always about giving something first. So give your heart, give yourself, and then when you need something, it's going to come back to you a million times over.
Great. I haven't received anything else. So if there are no more questions, is there anything you want to do to kind of close out?
All I want to say is thanks to everybody for being here. Remember that the next event is coming up September 17th, right?
It is actually September 14th. And I'll drop that link in the chat right now.
Okay. September 14th, yes, and I hope you'll join me. It's about the customer edge. And each month we're going to be doing another element of the 1% edge and showing you how to apply the process to your business in that particular area. I do hope you'll join me on Facebook, facebook.com, Susan Solovic, Twitter, Susan Solovic. And then don't forget, you can pre-order the book on Amazon. So I would be eternally grateful. So it's the 1% edge, small changes that guarantee relevancy and sustain success. But most importantly, I thank you for taking time to share your precious time with me today. And I thank my sponsors, the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council, sbecouncil.org, Amicom, my publisher, and the American Management Association, another great resource for business professionals. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing you guys next month.
Awesome.
Thanks, Susan.
Thanks so much, everybody. We'll catch you on the next cast.
Thanks, Susan. I appreciate this.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Take care,
Bye,
everybody.
Susan. Thank you.